You mentioned actually after that fight that you and Ray Longo walked into the audience to watch the rest of the fights.
Yeah.
Maybe this could be a tease for next time because you guys probably watched Matt Hughes fight there, and that became a little rivalry of yours. Do you remember picking him out, watching him in particular, or did you start hating him later?
Well, let me tell you, just to be on, but in that fight, in that card, I remember Pedro Rizzo knocking out Andre Arlovski. I remember that. That was on that card. I don't know why I remember that, but I remember it. But no, I've always got, this is going to shock a lot of people. I've gotten along with Matt Hughes up until The Ultimate Fighter season 4. Every time I remember when I lost to Dean Thomas, he was at the bar in Atlantic City, and he goes, "Hey man," he goes, you could help me with my jiu-jitsu. I can help you with your wrestling. And he was I remember being nice. He might have had a couple of beers, I don't know, but I always got along with him. I always got along with him. I thought he was a nice guy. We talked. And then season 4 happened, and I saw how he was treating George St. Pierre. Chris was there. And I remember we left the restaurant, and we went to some kind of Japanese place. I don't know what it was. So I remember we left, and I remember him picking on George. I feel it sounds weird, but George is like a nice, I'm not going to defend George, but I hate bullies from what we talked about earlier. And I remember him just being like, "Hey, George," they were scheduled to fight, right? And Matt already beat him once. So I remember him going, "Hey, George, man, you want to work together?" And George is like, "Oh, okay, I show you something, you show me." And he goes, "Yeah," he goes, "Maybe I show you the defense to the arm lock." And he was just being a guy. And George is like,
well, you know, like he's there with, I think, Rich Franklin, a couple of those, like his buddies, you know what I mean? Yeah. So he's feeling like he's really jokes. George is over there with us, and he's having a laugh. So, and George, you got to understand, George is like overly nice, very Canadian. Yes, I will do that. Yes, and he just kind of look at, you can tell it's kind of making him uncomfortable. Like, man, that's not cool. So that's one thing you got to love about Matt is, if you're in a room and there's 5 people hanging out talking and one guy's like not included, Matt will bring him in. He's that kind of go, hey, cool. He bringing him in. Super, like,
you want that.
And you could just tell it bothered him that they were doing that about George. So, you know, like I said, you just spend enough time with somebody, you see who they are as a person. And that's when you talked about the thing with Muhammad Ali. Yeah, if you see somebody who's being a dick to somebody else, they'll treat you like that if you were in that position too. So I get, and you're guilty by association, but that's why I always want to surround myself with people like Matt, because they're just good, always going to be good people, man. And that's right there when that riff him, and everybody's kind of like bringing it up, like, man, I mean, you kind of knows how they're treating George. I mean, it's kind of a dick move, right? You know, and everybody saw it.
We forget that there's cameras on us on that thing because we're always just being ourselves. So they got me in the bus being like, "Yo, that Matt Hughes is a bit of a jerk off," because I'm honestly like, I never seen him like that. So I'm like, wow, I was shocked. I'm like, what? And I kept going, like, what a jerk off. So obviously they have it on film, and I'm not, it's like I'm trying to hide it, but it's like, you know, and then it worked out anyway because we got to fight each other. But, you know, you're not going to click with everybody.
No.